Corpus Christi is in a man-made water crisis. Our current supply has been depleted down to 10%, and we are expected to run out of water entirely by 2027. This isn't something that happened overnight. City officials have been aware of this projection for the last several years and have taken no effort to prevent this from happening. I have lived in Corpus Christi for the entirety of my life, and I've been following the water crisis for the last 2 years. We didn't run out of water, we've been sold dry.
Whatever.
Residential consumption totals to only 15% of our city's water supply. The average household uses up to 5,000 to 6,000 gallons of water per month. Corpus Christi residents use less water per capita than most any other person in Texas. That is a direct quote from our former CCW Chief Operating Officer, Drew Molly. So how are we running out of water if we're not the ones that are using it? City ordinances allow large volume water users to pay only 31 cents per 1,000 gallons of water to be consumed under drought. Industrial usage consumes up to a total of 10 to 20 million gallons of water per day per company. Despite the gap between residential and industrial consumption, these companies are still rewarded with the financial benefit of having to pay less per gallon than we do. In 2025, city officials enacted a drought contingency plan that would work to minimize unnecessary water consumption. But of course, these same officials enacted an exemption to only 16 of the biggest contributors to the situation that we find ourselves in today. Trust me when I say that this isn't something that we want. I understand the need for industrial development because of the role that our city has to play, but this comes at the cost of ignoring any sort of concerns brought upon residents such as myself. This is the frustrating thing. If you've ever been to a city council meeting, you'll know that it's not fun. It's not a fun time, and yet, despite this, hundreds if not thousands of residents have taken the time out of their day to vocalize these concerns to people who honestly don't care if you live or die. We've even had comments from former industry workers who have joined us in calling for the curtailment of industrial usage. We have been saying for several years now that we will run out of water if we continue to sell it at this capacity. One of the solutions we provided was for an additional pipeline to be utilized, but this would come at the requirement of at least some form of curtailment from industrial usage. The city, of course, has taken every opportunity to reject any sort of solution that even remotely suggests doing anything in that nature. They are so adamant about selling this water that doesn't even belong to them that they are willing to time and time again ignore any sort of concerns or comments or even suggestions brought upon residents who are actually having to pay for this.
I went down to the beach and saw Kiki. She was all like, and I'm like, whatever.
Instead, city officials have spent the last few years aggressively campaigning for the installation of an inner harbor desalination plant. This essentially allows us to convert salt water into fresh water so that we can use our Corpus Christi Bay as our new water supply instead of the freshwater lakes that we are running out of, that we're depleting entirely. While this may sound like the solution to our crisis, this comes at the rejection of having any sort of limitation on industrial spending. That's why I say that this isn't proposed for our people. This is something that would cause more harm than good and place an additional burden onto the people who actually live here. Believe me when I say that this will be proposed to you as the solution to the crisis that they have created. Any claim of this being some progressive solution to save the city of Corpus Christi is a blatant lie. The only reason why they're proposing this so much is because it allows them to continue to sell our water for cheap while we're the ones that have to cover the costs. We have been fighting against this for several years. Construction alone is projected to cost $757 million with an additional $50 million for yearly maintenance. Who do you think pays for this? City officials have even acknowledged that this can cause an increase of water rates of up to 50%, 50. And for what it's worth, the process of desalination isn't really good for the environment. And I'm not just saying this to be some woke nut. This is an objective truth. You don't even have to be like some sort of hippie to see how this is a very real thing that could affect even you in the future. The process of converting salt water into fresh water produces something called brine, and because there's no dedicated space to hold this brine, it gets directly dumped into our semi-closed body of water. If you're unaware of what forever chemicals are, this is the time to probably look into that. It's a little relevant. And the thing that sucks is that with Corpus Christi, the bay specifically is semi-enclosed, which means it's not just the ocean, it's not just open, it is something that's a little condensed, you know what I mean? This plant would also additionally be placed in Hillcrest, which is one of Corpus Christi's most historically black neighborhoods. Hillcrest has already been long subjected to the industrial developments that have unfairly impacted their neighborhoods, from their schools to their stores to their parks to their houses. We've gotten to the point where this plant is now proposed to be installed into what we refer to as a buffer zone. A buffer zone is basically the areas that surround these neighborhoods that are kind of like a placeholder to prevent any sort of like immediate hazardous pollution, even though these places are already in such close proximities to industry. Even without buffer zones, Hillcrest is already subjected to so much hazardous waste. What is even the point of having a buffer zone if you're just gonna ignore it anyways? The project was officially up for vote back in September of 2025. Each city council meeting has a designated section for public comment, which gives each resident a total of 3 minutes to vocalize any sort of concerns they have to the council. I'm not exaggerating when I say that that day there were so many people against desal that public comment lasted until 1 in the morning. 78 out of the 97 comments for that day were against desal. It was so crazy that the 2 representatives for the company responsible for this didn't even honor their commitment that they made to show up to the meeting. All they had to do was just show up, just to be present for however many hours it was, and they couldn't even do that. They couldn't look and see how many people were against this. It was insane. After several hours and a few arrests later, the verdict came in for a 5-3 vote to terminate the city's contract with Hewitt. This was a historical day for Corpus Christi. I will never forget the feeling of waking up that next morning and crying tears of joy just from how unbelievable it all felt. It was something you see out of a movie. We saved the city. We put on the best damn talent show this town has ever seen, and we won. It was so empowering that you had a MAGA and leftists hand in hand, hugging, crying, uniting, rejoicing over this one thing that we could all agree on. The fact that we were able to stop these external companies from coming in and ruining everything for us was huge. Because like I said, these companies are huge. These are people that have endless amounts of money who are willing to just come in and invade your land for whatever profit they see in it. It set the precedent that no matter how big these people are, if you have enough people united enough to stand up for what's right, they can't touch you. It was great. It was probably one of the best days of my entire life. And then a total of 1 month passes. The city proposes a new vote to revive the Inner Harbor desalination plant, but under a different company this time. And I want you to think about the position that this puts us in. Regardless of whether or not you support the installation of this plant, this should concern you. This is showing me that they don't care. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They don't care about the fact that so many people have united against these giant entities in protest, and they don't care that you're vocalizing that you don't want this. I think this is the most frustrating thing. As someone, like I said, I've been following this for the last few years, and I know just how heavy and disturbing a lot of the effects that this has on our people. Despite everything that has happened in the last few years, they are showing that they will very proudly and loudly betray anything that you stand for if it means that they continue to sell our water for cheap. Now that we're running out of water and now that it's getting more attention, people don't know, and that's not their fault. There are even some people who live in this city who just aren't aware of what's been happening, and these are the people who are first to jump on the train of, oh, we need this plant, we need water, why are people opposing this? It's so frustrating because it minimizes any sort of fight that we've been putting up against this thing for the last few years. You have these bigger entities who, will frame the narrative that we're running out of water and that this is our only solution, but it's just not true. This is showing that the only thing that they care about is industrial spending, even if it means that it's completely going against what the people of the city want. That's how we got into this situation in the first place. It's disgusting and it's gross. I've been wanting to make this video for a really long time now. Like I said, I've lived here my whole life. Corpus Christi has been, honestly, there was a time where it was kind of like this hyperfixation to me. I would go to the library a lot and I would go to different places. I would read up a lot on Corpus Christi history and the way we've always been. This is a map of Corpus Christi that I've had in my room for the last few years because I love my city. I've been living here my entire life, and it's so surreal to see like what could happen and to see how unaware a lot of people are, and it makes me really sad. It's been stressing me out really bad. I had to delete Facebook, I had to delete Instagram. I haven't been on social media for the last week or so because of the fact that anytime I open any sort of app, you get people who don't even live in Corpus commenting and giving their 2 cents on, you know, why the hell don't they just put in the plant? And it just, I don't know. I don't know if I just don't have thick enough skin, but this is really getting to me, and I have made several drafts of a script, and I'm tired. All I could ever ask is that you take the time to research whatever it is that you believe. Even if you don't agree with me, and even if you are still a firm believer that we need this plant, obviously there's nothing I can say or do to stop you. All I ask is that stand on your feet, you know, say it with your chest. Tell anyone what you believe and why you believe it. I think the worst thing that could happen is that you blindly follow something that is only going to exploit you. One of the first videos I made on this channel was kind of like a love letter to Corpus Christi. It's called Body of Christ. It's not super important contextually, but it is something that I want to share and always will want to share. Kind of just conveying the love that I have and the love that a lot of people have for this city.